I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Next order of business is recognitions and acknowledgements, and we have Dr. Parker here to introduce our new Board of Education Representative Victor Montilla.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Happy New Year, for those I haven't seen already. All right, so it is my pleasure to introduce Victor Montilla. He is our Semester 1 Board of Ed student representative. Victor is a high-achieving senior who has consistently challenged himself by taking numerous AP and ECE courses throughout his time at Windsor High School. Victor has been the recipient of the Trinity Club of Hartford Book Award, the Rochester Bosch and Lomb Honorary Science Award, and is an AP Scholar with distinction. Along with being an excellent student, Victor is busy with his extracurricular activities which contribute to his well-roundedness. He is an active member and president of the Northwest Connecticut Cyber Leos Club, which is a service organization where he has many opportunities to contribute to the fundraising efforts and has helped with vision screening, international crisis support, and monetary support for the Fidoco Guide Dog Association. Victor is an active Technology Student Association, also known as TSA, where he served as the state level, as the Sergeant at Arms, parliamentarian, and is currently the state vice president. He is interned with State Representative and former Windsor Board of Education President Jane Garibay, and is a historical records transcriber for the Windsor Windsor Historical Society. At Windsor High School, Victor is a student advocate and mentor through the Fresh Start and Connections leadership programs. He is a member of National Honor Society and Rho Kappa Honor Societies, and is a student representative on our school governance council. Victor has a pulse in many aspects of our school and our community, and has demonstrated those characteristics as an amazing leader. Victor plans on studying molecular and cellular biology at the University of Connecticut next year, with the goal of becoming a pediatric oncologist to aid in the fight against childhood cancer. Dr. Hill and members of the board, I proudly present to you Victor Montilla, Windsor High School, Semester 1 Board of Education.
All right. Mr. Lockhart. Thank you. All right, Mr. Panos. 1, 2, 3.
Next item on our agenda is the introduction of Windsor's Educator of the Year, Christina McCann, and Ms. Batchelder and Mr. Mahalka will be doing the honors.
Absolutely. So I'd like to call up Jay Mahako, Principal of Pequannock, to introduce our Teacher of the Year.
Good evening, everybody. So it is both an honor and a privilege to introduce Christina McCann, who has served Windsor Public Schools since 2002 and as a teacher since 1992. As an educator, Mrs. Christina McCann is energetic and collaborative and continuously providing the best educational opportunities for the students in our classroom and across our whole school community, as Victor can attest to as one of her former students. In addition, Ms. McCann is actively involved in the Christ Proclamation Church in Windsor, Connecticut. Ms. McCann volunteers for a nursery. She loves babies. Is there a baby in the room today? Okay, if there was, she'd be holding it right now. And she also coordinates Operation Christmas Child shoeboxes for overseas distribution. She's a remarkable and inspirational educator who is centered on student achievement and engagement. Ms. McCann has high expectations for her students, for her families, and most of all, herself, and that's what makes her an incredible educator. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Christina McCann, Windsor Public Schools Teacher of the Year. Yeah, you can. Yeah.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Mahalko, for your kind words, and thank you, Board of Education members, for the honor of being named Windsor Public Schools Teacher of the Year. It is a privilege to be a part of the lives of children and families in my home community. I commit to continuing to grow successful students by being relational with students and their families, reflective of my practices, relentless in trying to address the needs of all students, and rigorous in pushing each child to reach their fullest potential. I hope to encourage fellow educators to be the best version of themselves that they can be, to challenge them to help all students achieve all that they can, and to show their support by being their students' biggest cheerleader. I am excited to be part of the district plan that focuses on building critical thinkers and realize that we all contribute to the larger picture of what Windsor High School graduates should look like. My heart is warmed seeing Victor, my former kindergarten student, here tonight. I am very proud of him. Teaching is hard work. It is tiring and sometimes frustrating, but it is also one of the most rewarding careers a person can have. I watch children be transformed before my eyes as I teach them new things and see them learn and grow. You never fully realize the impact you are having on a child until they come back to you in later years and express their gratitude for how you influenced their life. I appreciate the many years that I have worked for Windsor Public Schools. I love what I do because each day I am fortunate to do what I love. Thank you.
We next have the introduction of Windsor's Paraeducator of the Year, Miss Sue Lyons, by Miss Batchelder and Mr. Gagne.
I'd like to call call up Principal Gagne to recognize our Paraeducator of the Year.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So it is with great excitement that I am here to announce our Paraeducator of the Year for the Windsor Public School District, Miss Susan Lyons. Miss Susan Lyons is a dedicated paraeducator who has served in Windsor for 23 years. When you think of Miss Lyons, or when I think of Miss Lyons, I think of a leader in our school. She leads from within. I can even pull from yesterday. I had asked some paraeducators to step in for an initiative. Out of 20-something paraeducators, I had 3 paraeducators step up to the challenge, and Miss Lyons, of course, was leading the way. So she's always gives her 100% best effort to ensure the success of our students at JFK. With that being said, the thing that makes Miss Lyons special is being a parent of a student here in Windsor and being the principal at John F. Kennedy. I can recognize in 2 different realms. As a principal, it is the exact type of person that you want working with the students in your building. As a parent, there is not a person that I would want working with my child more than Miss Lyons. She is 100% passionate, dedicated, and will make sure that your child is receiving 100% her best effort every single day to make sure that your child will be the most successful that they can be. So with that being said, I just want to say congratulations to Miss Lyons, the 2024 Windsor Public Schools Paraeducator of the Year.
Thank you, everyone. I'm a little nervous. I want to say thank you to the district for this incredible honor. I'm truly grateful to stand before the Board of Education and all of us tonight. As I look around the room, I know we spend countless hours working to prepare for our Windsor students for their future, and we will continue to do so. I believe we were called to this job to value others, to show love, and to support one another. Supporting each other is the key. I would also like to take a moment to express my deepest appreciation to Mr. Gagne for his leadership in restoring JFK back to its greatness. As a dedicated educator, I am passionate about empowering students to become independent individuals. Our profession requires prioritizing others' success through love and support, and that's what I try to do every day. Thank you again for this honor, and I look forward to continuing this journey with all of you, striving for a brighter future for our students and the community. Together, we will succeed greatness, and let's make 2024-25 a great school year for Windsor.
Next item on the agenda is introduction of new administrators. Ms. Batchelder?
Thank you. So I would like to recognize two individuals who are definitely not new to Windsor, but because of an acting role versus a flat-out principal, I just want to recognize again, Principal Dana Gagne is principal of JFK Elementary School. And Kristen Bloom is now the acting assistant principal at JFK Elementary School.
Leonard, I'm going to recognize you. Leonard. This time I'd like to recognize Mr. Lockhart before we do audience to visitor.
Good evening. As Secretary of the Windsor Board of Education, I wish to extend a warm welcome to everyone present and to our television viewers. The board, superintendent, and I are pleased that you have joined us as we celebrate achievement, review information, and make policy decisions related to the effective operation of Windsor Public Schools. This is a regular meeting, and all items that will be discussed or voted on this evening have been posted as required by law. Our mission is to develop the genius in every child and create lifelong learners. As the Windsor Board of Education, we are here to set goals, listen to reports of the superintendent, approve budgets, contracts, and personnel appointments, and make policy for the district. We are not here to make management decisions or solve problems of individuals. It's management's responsibility of the superintendent. Meeting of the boards are open to the public. It is the time when the board conducts its business of governing the school system in a public arena. The public meetings are not meetings with the public. Therefore, comments from audience will be confined to the time designated for public address to the board. Decorum and courtesy are important elements in effective public meetings. Please silence your cell phones or communication devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Since it's legally mandated that proceedings be accurately recorded, the board chair may have to ask for order periodically should noise begin to interfere with our recording capabilities. I am pleased that you have taken the time this evening to join us. We are very proud of this school system and thank you for your interest in the Windsor Public Schools.
Thank you, Secretary Lockhart. Next item is audience to visitor. Ms. Daly.
Good evening. This is Robin Daly from the Superintendent's Office. If there is anyone from the public who would like to address the board, you may do so in two ways. You may type your name, address, and comment into the Q&A feature in the Zoom application, or you may speak by clicking Raise Hand or dialing *9 within the Zoom app. When you are called on to speak, you will be given 3 minutes to state your name, address, and comment. Please do not place the call on speakerphone. No comments can be made against the employees of the school district or children outside of your own. No comments will be made by the board at this time.
Thank you. And for those in the room, in the boardroom, at the 2.5-minute mark, if you're speaking, Ms. Taylor will hold up a red card briefly to ask you to start winding up your remarks. The 3-minute mark, she'll hold it up and keep it up as long as her arm allows her to do it. And please, at that point, finish up. And for those who may be watching on TV or calling in, you may not be able to see the red card if you're calling in. And at the 3-minute mark, Ms. Taylor will ask you to finish up your remarks. That said, is there first anyone in the Board of Education room that would like to address the Board of Education tonight?
George Slate, 74 Ethan Drive. Madam Vice President, feel free to pass along the comments that I sent to you, that I sent to Jeff Hines, head of DEI at UConn, about if not enough Windsor High students are getting in, to have UConn make a better effort regarding all 33 Alliance District towns, and also to fund that with additional monies in the Leadership Scholarship. And Dr. Hill, from what I sent on the email earlier, I think one of the small reasons I do appreciate you so much is I don't have a tie, but I noticed that you helped Victor straighten his out. My comments to you started with Dr. Hill in terms of compensation for opt-out. And I'm more concerned not so much for his compensation, but as I said to you, don't encourage your employees to gamble. Don't encourage them to do opt-out without having additional coverage. The best business practice is if you allow someone to opt out, that they prove to you that they have coverage. Because if you have a sick or injured employee, you want them to get better as opposed to regret the decision that they made to opt out. Regarding the $2.9 million number that I gave to you, I hope that does not come into play in the budget cycle that we're going to face next. But again, you're in union contract negotiations, but evidently what's been represented to me is that opting out, paying your employees to opt out considerable amounts, has no budgetary impact. I still don't believe that. And when I was walking in Northwest Park this morning, it dawned on me. It goes back to basic math, the fraction, numerator, denominator. In the denominator, are you looking at the number of employees that you expect to be taking medical insurance, or are you looking at the total population? One of them will get you in trouble, the other one won't. The final comment is, for Dr. Hill's change to going from 50% benefit to 100%, not to have had any budgetary impact, then in the budget, you had to assume and know that he was going to get the additional 50% benefit. That's the only way that would have no budgetary impact. And I don't think that's how you should budget, because I'm not sure how many of you already knew that was built into the budget process.
Thank you. Anyone else in the boardroom that would like to address the board? Thief. Anyone online or the hand raised?
There are attendees on the Zoom app, but there are no hands raised.
Okay, without objection, from to my left and right, we're going to close audience to visitor. Audience to visitor is then closed. Next item is the consent agenda, which consists of the Human Resources Report and the approval of the Board of Ed regular meetings for 2025. Either of these, anybody want to pull either of these from the consent agenda? I'm going to pause a minute here. Any objection on this side, Paul?
I don't think so. Ms. Cantor, anything?
Any objection on those two items here? Okay. Can read the...
I move the Board of Education approve consent agenda items 4A, Human Resources Report, 4B, approval of BOE regular meetings for 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos to approve the consent agenda. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Did someone hear Jill? Is she saying? Jill, you in favor of? Aye. Oh, thank you. Opposed, nay. Abstention, motion carries 900. Approval of minutes. There's 3 sets of minutes here, and we'll do the same thing we did with the consent agenda. June 18th regular meeting, the June 25th special meeting, September 10th special meeting. Mr. Lockhart?
On behalf of Ms. Cantor, I'm pulling 5B, which is the June 25th, 2024 minutes. Is that correct, Ms. Cantor? June 25th?
Yes, it is.
Is that correct, Ms. Cantor? You want it June 25th pulled?
I'll answer yes.
Okay.
I'll do
I
that.
just
Thank
want to
you.
make sure it's on the record. Okay.
Okay.
With that being said, if there's no other need to be pulled, I move that the minutes from the June 18th, 2024 regular and the minutes from the September 10th, 2024 special meeting be adopted as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Lockhart, seconded by Mr. Panos to approve the 5A and 5C June 18th regular meeting and September 10th special meeting. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you. Opposed, nay. Abstention, motion carries 900.
Mr. President,
Mr. Lockhart.
I move that we adopt the June 25th, 2024 special meetings minutes with any necessary corrections.
I'll second
Is
it.
there a second?
Second.
Do you want to explain a little further that?
I will yield to Ms. Cantor since she asked for these to be pulled. She wanted to be recognized.
Ms. Cantor, would you like to explain a little further?
Yes, I would like to have some comments made, changed to what I have said. Do I need to say them now?
Sure.
Did you say
Yes, sorry.
Okay. On section 3, Board of Education evaluation of superintendent, discussion of superintendent's contract compensation, I wanted to have the update corrected to Ms. Cantor commented on Dr. Hill not adhering to contractual obligations and provided documentation indicating the requirements. I had said during the meeting, I received a program, not a report. If I was a student and I turned in a program, I would have received a 0. Also, for Dr. Hill's memberships, they're required to be approved in writing in advance by President Fury, and I never received any type of notification from President Fury on this matter. So another one was Mr. Fury did not address Ms. Cantor's point of order when Mr. Fury interrupted Mr. Panos.
Mr. President?
Mr. Lockhart?
And I had sent that to
Yeah.
you, Leonard, last night or early this morning.
I was aware of this.
Sorry, Mr. Lockhart.
No problem. I was aware of the second part, not the first part. But with that being said, based off of previous practice, with the motion being stated that with any necessary corrections, we've allowed the staff to go back and to review the meeting to verify whatever that she's asking or any board members asking to be corrected, that it's verified and then it's put into the record. So I ask that we allow this motion to proceed with the understanding the staff is going to go back and verify and correct. And if there's any discrepancies, it'll be reported back to this board at the next board meeting.
Any comments?
I'll
Mr.
make
Panos?
I'll make a similar comment here on the section about 3/4 of the way down on the second page, which is Mr. Panos concluded with comments on Dr. Hill adhering to contractual obligations. That's true, but it's not exact, and it's a little vague about what it was. Again, it's a similar comment. It concluded with comments from Dr. Hill not adhering to certain contractual obligations. That's the only thing that I would, it's a little ambiguous. It's correct, but it's a little ambiguous. That's all.
And just to follow up on that, Mr. President, the only time that we are verbatim with our minutes is when we take roll call votes was when you had the opportunity to state on the record the reason why you voted the way you did in a verbatim format. And I agree with Mr. Panos, yes, the minutes can be generalized. And I appreciate that he's bringing up the fact that he wanted to add some context to his comments.
Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else on this item? So we understand we're voting to approve this subject to potential changes after Ms. Daly has a chance to go back to the record. So all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. Thank you. Opposed, nay. Abstention, motion carries 900.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Lockhart. At this point, we have the student representative report. Mr. Montilla.
Oh, shoot, I need to wipe my nose. All right, just checking. Good morning, good evening. Good evening, members of the Board of Education, district administrators, and all present stakeholders and community members. First, I want to say it's an honor to represent Windsor High School at this table. Before I get to report, I want to congratulate Mrs. McCann on being named Windsor's Educator of the Year. I am one of many students whose lives she has touched through her passion and love for what she does. Ms. McCann was my kindergarten teacher, as many of you now know. I joined her class as a kid from the Philippines with limited English skills. She regularly checked in to make sure I understood the lessons and was always available to offer support when needed. Her patience and kindness are qualities I will always remember. This is a well-deserved recognition for an outstanding educator. Thank you so much, Ms. McCann, and congratulations. The first thing I'd like to discuss is the Fresh Start program at Windsor High. So last summer, 186 students joined the Fresh Start program. The program was split into 2 one-week sessions. It helped incoming first-year students transition to Windsor High by familiarizing them with the school. Through various activities, they also learned the 5 SEL competencies: self-awareness, self-management, relationship skills, social awareness, and responsible decision-making. Students also explored support resources and were taught to develop effective study habits. The program continues with weekly connections lessons starting on September 26th. Participants are settling well into high school so far. Moving on to the Class of 2025 committee. So on September 6th, around 75 senior students came together for the Senior Sunrise. The gathering marked the start of their final year of high school, giving them a much-needed break from the busy year ahead. They laid out picnic mats, took photos, and enjoyed some fun bonding moments together. A big thank you goes out to the senior committee advisors for organizing the event and to the teachers who joined in on the fun, even though the sun didn't quite make an appearance. The senior committee's first fundraiser, a staff dress down day, was a success. They're now looking to partner with local restaurants for future fundraisers to continue to support the senior class. Next, the student council. The Student Council has begun making preparations for this year's Homecoming, Spirit Week, and the annual hallway decorating contest. The themes have been finalized, and we can expect more details to be shared in a few weeks. Third item, the counseling office. So senior workshops at the library are now held every Thursday and Friday. These sessions are designed to help students with college applications, resume building, and other post-secondary planning. One-on-one help with a counselor is available, which is valuable given the complexities of the college application process. Students are encouraged to attend these workshops for personalized guidance and assistance. College representatives have begun visiting Windsor High this week and will continue until the 28th of October. It's a great chance for seniors to learn about the schools they're interested in, such as UConn, American International College, Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, and others. Students can ask questions directly to the representatives, which is extremely helpful if they're unable to visit campuses in person. This opportunity can assist them in making informed decisions about their academic journey. Fourth item, humanities and STEM. So the humanities and department has introduced a new American Studies course for 11th graders, offering 2 credits through an interdisciplinary approach that combines both English and social studies. This ECE course meets daily. Co-taught by English and social studies faculty, it fulfills the state's U.S. history requirement. Student feedback has been positive, reflecting this course's successful integration and engagement. This year, the STEM department also introduced 3 new courses: Math for Business and Economics, Introduction to Computing for Engineers, and General Chemistry 1 and 2. These courses are designed to match the current standards of similar courses offered at UConn. The expansion of dual enrollment classes is a step forward. It lets us earn college credits early, explore different interests, and strengthen our college applications. 5th item, athletics department. The Warriors have kicked off the season strong, showing impressive performances and promising potential across various sports. In their season opener last Friday, the football team delivered a convincing 53-26 win over East Hartford. Timely scoring and disciplined defensive efforts highlighted their control of the game. Our cross-country teams have also once again demonstrated their dominance this season. The boys and girls team delivered outstanding performances at the 12th Harry Garrity Cross-Country Invite held at Nevers Park. The boys team secured the top spots in both varsity and junior varsity divisions, while the girls claimed first place in the varsity division. 6th item, the music department. The Windsor High Marching Band pumped up the crowd at their first home football game of the season. They also brought their signature energy to the tavern trot, making it super fun and exciting. Their performance was a hit, really getting everyone into the spirit of the day. On top of that, the band hosted a bake sale over the weekend to continue to support their future projects. 6th item? 7th? I lost count, but 7th. The cell phone policy. So Windsor High School has recently reinforced its cell phone policy during class to improve the learning environment. The policy itself is not new, so teachers are actively reminding students to follow it. The increased emphasis aims to reduce interruptions and help students stay more focused on their studies. The reinforced cell phone policy is working well so far. Last but not least, on behalf of the entire student body, I want to thank everyone who helped keep us safe during the recent school lockdown. We appreciate the quick and decisive actions of our school administration, the local police, and our school resource officer, whose professionalism was key. A special thanks goes out to our teachers and staff for their calm and guidance, who gave us much needed security during this tough time. Your combined efforts were crucial in keeping us safe. We are grateful for your commitment to our well-being. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And at this point, I'll ask, are there questions for our representatives? Jeremy first, then Ms. Taylor, then Mr. Panos.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to say a welcome. First and foremost, I know you touched on the cell phone policy. I know we're taking up that item tonight. I don't know if you're able to stay. I know you're very busy, but I would definitely, I'd love to hear some of your thoughts about that and which way we should go as far as that item goes. And that's all I have.
Ms. Taylor, then Mr. Panos.
All I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Halleck.
Thank you, President Fury. Welcome again, Victor. That I would have to say, we have amazing student liaisons, but wow. Are you running for the municipal elections next year? Because you have my vote. Amazing job. Very comprehensive. I feel like I was watching the news, but better. But thank you very much. It was a really, really great report, and I look forward to what you'll do in future meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Panos.
Well, I don't have much to add. I just wonder what the high school representative reports, how they're gonna outdo that.
Setting the bar high.
You'll have to get and coordinate and not say everything, and to give them a few crumbs to say. Sorry.
I know, right? I'll just say ditto.
Especially when we found out he's on the School Governance Council with the two of you here as board representatives. They're ex officio members of the School Governance Council. Yes, Mr. Wollaston.
Yeah, I would just echo the sentiments. Amazing report and welcome. Glad to have you here.
Anyone else? And as Mr. Halleck mentioned, we are going to be talking about the cell phone policy. But I also know, hearing all the things you're involved with, we understand if you need to go home at this time, or if you decide to stay for part of the meeting, if you have to cut out at some point, that's fine as well. But welcome and great report. Next item is the Board of Education report. First, the President's report. I attended, along with Mr. Lockhart, who's president of CABE, the CABE Summer Leadership Conference. It was well attended by both board members and superintendents. One of the highlights was representatives regarding the Dalio report regarding school trauma and mental health of students, and they put a plug in for more folks to weigh in on what the state may eventually be doing along those lines. Convocation, we were able to hear Ms. Lyons and Ms. McCann, which is always a fun event. I don't know necessarily for teachers all coming back. I think they like seeing their compatriots, but it does mean the school year. But we also heard from the mayor, Mayor Black-Burke this year, as well as representatives from the Windsor Education Foundation and Dr. Hill. Mr. Lockhart, Mr. Wollaston, Ms. Taylor, Mr. Panos and I were there, and I'm sorry if I missed anybody else who might have been there as well. It's always, to me, an inspiring day and a way to start the year. The next day, we were followed by Dr. Haiti in an event that she's done a couple years now called Windsor Nation, and I attended along with Ms. Taylor, and it was a great opportunity to celebrate many of the triumphs of the successes of last year, and important. It was great to be able to hear shout outs for almost all different parts, because everybody deserved that kind of shout out and that day to be recognized. It's a good way, again, following convocation, to kick off the year of things where we were successful in, and also thinking of Ms. McCann, how we raise the bar and increase and have those high expectations, not sit on some successes that we had, but have that motivate us to do more with the support of the district. I also attended, along with Ms. Taylor, Mr. Panos, and I know Mr. Wollaston. I know Mr. Lockhart was trying to attend. I don't know if he made it to the block party, but he had he had other obligations with his firefighting hat. I thought we'd see him at least at the fire trucks, but he had even more pressing things to do with regarding that. But again, it was a great kickoff of the year. I think almost everyone I talked to and said they enjoyed it, and enjoyed the fact that they could, if they had children at several different schools, it was one-stop shopping. They could go along the tennis courts there and go from school to school, getting backpacks, having dinner, getting ice cream, though there was a very long line for ice cream. Next year, maybe we need 2 trucks. Actually, we already had 2 trucks. We may need a 3rd truck. I also attended, I know Mr. Wollaston, Mr. Lockhart, and Mr. Madison. In fact, Mr. Madison was seen dancing at the Calling All Men event, welcoming students to all the schools. And I saw him dancing. I think some of those pictures have been posted on the website there. But again, it was great to attend that type of event and have the students know that we support them. The high school students were clearly half asleep as they came across the bus and from the bus, but hopefully they're getting back used to their start time. We held our Board of Education evaluation in executive session, and I can't talk about any specifics about that, but that was held last Tuesday, September 10th, moderated by Nick Caruso. And the purpose is how can we be more successful in supporting Windsor Public Schools? And I think we had a good discussion. Any questions on my report? Okay, move on to setting the graduation date for Windsor High School class of 2025. Dr. Hill.
Thank you, Mr. President. Each year, the Board of Education must vote on the date for graduation. We are requesting the board approve Tuesday, June 10th, 2025, as the date for graduation. Graduation will be held at the Bushnell in Hartford, Connecticut. State law now allows graduation date to be set early on in the school year. So for those who are watching and not used to it, we've been doing this for a few years now. This is when we set the graduation date, and it doesn't change. So seniors, I know the senior here to my left will be very happy to know, like, that is our date, and that is the date their families can lock in. So June 10th, 2025.
Is there a motion?
There is, as I'm like, oh. I move the Board of Education approve Tuesday, June 10th, 2025 as the graduation date for the class of 2025.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Motion made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos. Any discussion?
Do they have to graduate?
One more year.
All right, okay.
Okay. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Motion carries 900. Next item is the CABE Level 2 Distinction Award. Is there a motion?
Mr. President, yes, there is. I move the Board of Education approves its submission of the required criteria for the CABE Level 2 Distinction Award to be submitted by the Superintendent's Office.
Okay, I'll give a little background that was written up.
Second.
Oh, sorry. Motion made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos. Discussion? I'd like to kick this off, and actually, if Mr. Lockhart, giving him as president of CABE, giving him the right to kick this discussion off. Mr. Lockhart.
I appreciate the deference, Mr. President. So the CABE Leadership Awards is an opportunity where, as Board of Educations across the state, you get to compare yourself amongst your peers based off the programming. There's very strict criteria for both levels of programming, level 1, level 2. We are currently ranked at the level of distinction, which is level 2. It's a very, very difficult criteria where you have to demonstrate as a collective board our operations, how we engage with the superintendent, and how we conduct our business at a Board of Education, as well as the programming that interfaces with the superintendent. A lot of the things that the superintendent do, the board is, we should be supportive of the superintendent, and that's supposed to be documented in a very effective way, and we do a good job at it. We've been telling our story since 2017. And we've been awarded this, the first 2 years was level 1, and we've been level 2 consecutively since 2019. So we've done a great job as Windsor Board of Education to support our superintendent and to tell the story of the good things about Windsor Public Schools. Too often you hear about the negative, and it's our job as a board to work with the superintendent and all his staff to tell the story of the great kids, every single child within our school district. So it's humbling as CABE president and coming up the ranks into presidency to see the process and see how we rank amongst our peers. And I can, with humility, say sometimes there's no competition, but you know what? You should always stay humble, but always stay hungry as well, and stay focused on what we're supposed to be doing. So this award allows us to stay hungry, stay humble, and all the awards we've won are posted outside this wall, on the opposite side of the wall out there. And you can see all the designations that we've won from CABE since 2017. So, Dr. Hill, on behalf of CABE, we thank you. Mr. President, on behalf of CABE, we thank you for all the great things that Windsor Public Schools are doing.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion on this? Mr. Panos?
Yeah, I think that there's room for improvement, so I hope you don't mind. I'm going to vote no for it. To just some of these things, so if we,
Absolutely. There's always room for improvements for any board, any process, any organization.
right, I think there's more that we can do for board professional development. For example, board has developed district goals and reviews them on a regular basis. I think we can do a lot better for that. And the policy discussions, I think we've had discussions on that, so I think we can, you know, we have a lot of good things, but I think we can improve, so if you don't mind.
Mr. President, if I may?
Mr. Lockhart?
So, Mr. Panos, I appreciate that commentary, and our packet is typically exceptional, and I offer that with humility. But based off what you're saying, we're going to be definitely in a class to ourselves. We're going to separate from the pack even more. So I welcome that challenge for this board.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay. Motion was made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
Nay.
Anybody see how Ms. Cantor, how did you vote?
Is she here?
How did you vote, Ms. Cantor?
I think she...
Says aye. The transcription.
Aye. Okay. Aye, okay. Motion carries 8-1. Next item on the agenda is cell phone policy. Review of the cell phone policy with board discussion and possible board action and/or referral to the policy committee. This is an item of interest from both sides of the aisle, and part of it was a question that someone had regarding consistency. So it was nice to kind of hear our board representative talk about the emphasis being done at Windsor High School. And we asked Dr. Hill to have both principals from Sage Park and the high school here to talk about their current policy, as well as for Dr. Hill to talk about some new state guidelines that have come down. There's also, I may refer to Mr. Lockhart again, CABE also now has a position on this. We've been getting a lot of guidance from CABE, from their policy folks, knowing that this was going to be a hot button issue across the state of Connecticut, and several school districts have gotten stricter with their policies, and so we'd like to have a discussion here with the possibility of action or a referral to a committee. And so that being said, I'd like to look to Dr. Hill, how he wants to start this off.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'm just, as the board requested, I'm going to ask Dr. Parker and Principal Jorgensen to come forward and give brief summations of how they have implemented the current policy in their respective schools. So they can come up together and just take their time. Take their turns.
All right, I guess I can go first. So currently at Sage Park Middle School, our cell phone policy is away for the day. We want our kids to come in, put the phones away. We don't want to see them. At first, many years ago, I was a proponent of teaching our kids how to appropriately use technology within the school setting. I believe that if we set boundaries for them, appropriate boundaries, then they can use it when they're traveling the halls. They could use it during cafeteria time. But while they were in classroom, when we asked them to put it away, then so be it. I quickly learned that doesn't work with middle schoolers. Kids were sneaking it. It was hard for once they had it out to have them put it away. And I sent a letter home to families a couple years ago, and I was like, we can't do it. I'm convinced that we are not the individuals to set boundaries for children with their devices in the building, unless it's our Chromebooks. And so put it away for the day. We don't want to see it. We know you have it, but it's not necessary for use in the building. And so we do not even offer it as a reward. We used to do so. Like if you behave well, you could use it in the cafeteria. No. So teachers are not allowed to use it to their advantage. It just has to be away for the day. And we teach the expectations. So whatever we ask of them, we teach them. Parents have been receiving our policy or our expectations in the newsletter for the past several weeks and reiterated again during open house just so that it's clear to everyone. I just don't want to see them.
All right.
Dr. Parker?
Yep. And in terms of the high school, similar, but I'll kind of preface by talking about what Victor talked about. It's not a new policy. I think what we did was, as a faculty and administration, we made a concerted effort to just really have some true concrete boundaries around how and when to use those, use the cell phones. And even when speaking of cell phones, we talk about electronics in general. Currently, students are able to use their phones during the 5-minute passing times. So that's approximately 3 times a day, not including even before school and after school, but while they're in school. Then there's also the half-hour lunch period where they can access their phones. We typically just ask them to not be actively making phone calls. If people need to make a phone call, we find them a landline or doing FaceTime or taking pictures of other folks. When they're in the classrooms, what we ask students to do is place them in a cell phone caddy in the classroom. If a student opts not to put it in the classroom caddy, then the expectation is that it is away and it is silent and it's not blinking. And again, I think, Ms. McCann alluded to this, and the idea was just like we just really talked as a faculty and staff about raising the bar and really just trying to minimize that distraction and just kind of really lock into what students need to do. That extends to the hallways. So if you are accessing a pass to go use the bathroom, the expectation is not that you're walking around the hallways texting otherwise. And that's pretty much it in terms of what the policy is currently. And again, it's not a new policy. It's just something we really honed in on as something that will help us with engaging students in learning.
Thank you. What I'd like to do now is be able to have questions of either administrator and go back and forth. Ms. Taylor and Mr. Pino.
Going into parliamentary procedures, it's just whoever raises a hand, that sort of thing.
Yeah, we have one here and one here.
Sure.
Ms. Taylor?
Thank you both. I appreciate it. Again, as a parent, I really appreciate the Sage Park one. It was really great. Because at that age, it's really difficult. So my questions aren't for you. My questions are for you. So I wrote down what you said, and so about the appropriate times, and this isn't a new policy, which I was aware of, but we know this doesn't get followed. So my question to you is, what happens when it's out during chemistry?
Yep. So the adult that's present, in that instance, it would be the teacher, would ask the student to give them a warning or ask them to put it away most often. If it's found that does not happen, we do have policy or infractions that occur in terms of first offense, second offense, third offense. First offense instance would have a student, we call it affectionately bag and tag, which the teacher would ask the student for the device, and then we would place it in a plastic bag that also has a ticket that goes along with it, student name, where it came from. And then in that instance, the teacher would call for either a safety support monitor or administrator, someone to actually bring it down to the main office, where we have a process to where it is logged and then it is locked in a file cabinet. In that first offense, again, the student can actually come downstairs at the end of the day and retrieve it themselves and sign it out. Fast forward, let's just say the student happens to have the same infraction, different day, different time. It would be logged in, same process, logged in as a second offense, and then a parent or guardian would need to come and retrieve it, sign it out. A third instance, let's just say, similar in terms of how we access it, ask for it, lock it away. Parent would need to come, and then they may be assigned some level of detention or community service or what have you. And hopefully we don't get to a fourth, which we typically haven't. And
Thank you.
Mr. Panos,
Just,
then Mr. Madison.
what is the effect during the passing time? I mean, perhaps seems to me, I mean, when I see people walking around with them, don't forget, it kind of slows them down because if they pay attention and you have hallways full of people, is that effective, or does it affect their getting to the next class? That perhaps...
the phone itself?
Yeah, allowing them to get that, you know.
No. Well, is it for either one of us, or?
Well, that would be a question for both of you, but, you know, since you're the one who allows it, you know.
I mean, from my purview at the high school, what you find is the students that may be tardy to class are not necessarily tardy because of their phone. It's typically because of that last couple of minutes with somebody right next to them and trying to walk each other around in that last couple of minutes to have a conversation or something like that. What we asked our students to do is really, they may text, and we're not oblivious to the fact they may be texting, but the idea is that you're in class on time. And we do have a process to where students know that, if we call a certain time of the day where we let them know we're about to come around and, ensure that the hallways are clear, they know to get to class pretty quickly. And they're random, so they don't know when they're coming because they know they can actually accrue a detention from that process as well. So another layer, but to be honest with you, I would say just kind of being really clear with the expectation and really in terms of us just helping to execute it. I would just say, I know I've gotten a lot of really positive feedback about us just really honing in on the process this year. So to your question, I can't say that the phone would be the reason for a student being tardy or being an issue for that reason.
So
just as a point of information, the student representative might have some context as well that he could share.
Okay. All right.
If you yield.
That's okay. I'll entertain. Go ahead. Without giving up floor.
Yes.
Go right ahead.
So in terms of being clear with expectations, on the first day of school, most, if not all, teachers were like, here is a paper explaining the cell phone policy to students, and they're expected to read it, to go over with their parents, sometimes even sign it. So that's in terms of being clear. And in terms of with the passing time, there really isn't really an issue with the phones in particular. Mostly if they are having trouble getting to class, sometimes the class is really far, sometimes there may be congestion in the hallways just because more students have a class in a certain wing of the school at that time. But otherwise, it's not usually the phones. Sometimes I just can't run all the way to gym class from the math wing, so.
Okay, I'm a little surprised that it doesn't cause, delays, but Ms. Jorgensen, what would you expect?
I mean, our students are prohibited from having their cell phones out during passing time, but they're still late, right? So I don't know if there's a clear correlation between having access to your cell phones and making it to class on time. I mean, they're late for a variety of reasons. They're talking to their friends, and sometimes they're late and the class is right next door. So it's...
There's probably a reason.
So... no correlation, but I will say we do monitor the halls just in case someone has to whip out their phone for whatever reason, and we do bag and tag if we see it out in the hallways. You just keep it away for the day, just for the day.
Now, in the lunch half hour, is there any problem there? I mean, kids, they text and they tend to, distract one another or to make comments to one another that can be distracting. You don't find any issues there, or maybe you need some experience this?
Are you asking both of them? or-
Yeah, I'm asking Mr. Parker.
I've got a couple of decades of those experiences. What I would say is, to be honest, any of those types of instances that you're talking about, I don't know that 30 minutes, again, getting your food, you're sitting down, like, if anything, more of those types of distractions are happening on evenings and weekends. And so for us, again, I think it was just kind of the trade-off to say, and maybe a little different from the middle school developmentally, you're in high school now. And if the expectation is that you're going to high school, you're going to be in the workforce, you're going to be, military and things like that, nobody's going to be asking you for your phone. So that's what we're asking for in school. However, there's a reality that says, they're gonna have access to it whenever. And then it's kind of more about, how do we allow them to kind of, get to that point where they understand what's more important and what's not in terms of accessing their phone. Again, it's 30 minutes is a lunch wave. But when you're talking about actual access, to your phone, chances are kids are on their phones 10 minutes within that lunch wave. A lot of what we've found is they start interacting with each other even more. And those that don't necessarily like to, talk to other folks, they can focus in and watch their video or whatever, which actually may distract them from having some of those interactions that, may not have.
Yeah, I mean, just that, talking about, just socializing, it's a problem generally in society, right? That people don't interact enough when they're at lunch. That's something to consider. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Madison, and then I'll look over this way.
Yeah, I love the, what is it, Away for the Day. I'm on the policy committee. I'm going to submit that as our entire policy. Kidding. No, I love the middle school policy. A couple questions on the high school policy. First of all, what do you need to be successful from this board is my first question for everything, right? So you have to deal with this on the ground day in, day out. And so the question is, what does the policy need to look like for you to get your job done most effectively? I hope the elementary school kids don't even have phones. If we keep the middle school policy where it is, my kid didn't. My middle schooler still doesn't. But if we can keep the policy in the middle school where it is, the variability is in the high school, right? Because the kids have to get responsible at some point. So one of my kids, I said to him when he was about 7 or 8 years old, if you go to sleep late, you're going to feel miserable all day tomorrow. Use good judgment when you go to sleep. I have not managed his bedtime since. I tried that with my other kid, and after a week, he's like, Daddy, can you make me turn off my lights when it's the time? I'm like, you got it, kid, right? So kids are wildly variant. But the question is like, how do you balance that responsibility? This is the question in my head, not looking for an answer, just saying that at some point you're going to be in college, in the military, having a job. You're going to have to be responsible for yourself. So at some point, high schoolers do have more responsibility than middle schoolers, obviously. And it feels like you're trying to strike that balance. My question would, and I'm okay with that, it's like we can nickel dime all day, but I'm not going to try to second guess how you do your job. My question to you is, do you need any policy changes to be effective at your job, including the fact that sometimes you want a bigger hammer from the boss a couple levels up, which leads to the board, right? It's like, if we play the bad cop, you get to be the good cop and say, sorry, guys, I have to make the policy even tighter because that damn Board of Ed was so mean. If that's what you need in the policy, I'm happy to help with that. What kind of policy do you need in order to be successful for what you need to do to manage this issue?
Well, to be honest, the one we have in place, I would say is fine for now, in my opinion. And the reason for that is, I think we did put a real focus on just how do we do it differently and more efficiently. So without saying, to have a better policy or more things added to the policy, I think we're actually starting with a new baseline. And I guess it's to be determined if we need any modifications to what we're doing now. But what I'd say is, right now, we've been some really good feedback. The other piece I'd say is, as a board, as we go out into the community, as we have those different touch points with the other adults, is just really, talking about it more as a partnership, collaboration, and, kind of what do they need from us as well in supporting students and educating students around using the phones and other devices outside of school as well, because, they all kind of go hand in hand. To your point, somebody staying up all night on their phone, chances are they're going to, at best, they'll probably have a marginal day the next day, especially over time. Then we're talking about deficits. So I'd say also collaborating with parents and in some cases educating parents of what that might look like. Some of the safeguards on the phones, I think that's probably another level of support, but not so much the policy, but just more education and collaboration with families.
And a concrete question, just last one. How many actual bag and tag incidents of level 1, 2, and 3, let's call them, have you had in the last 10 or 11 days we've had school now?
I can take you back to, from day one, approximately total 106-ish.
106 events.
That was yesterday's count, so hopefully there were none.
Okay.
Accurate. But that's a level 1 offense, and we anticipated that. We'd have a little influx or whatever right off the bat. But then out of those, we're talking, maybe 10 total in terms of the second level. And then, if I'm not mistaken, there were 2 that had already made it to the third level. So in those cases now we might be talking about some more intensive supports around just like some education, some workshops, some other things like that with the cell phone. But overall, 106, and students understand, and we'll see, but I'd say since the start of school, that's kind of where we're at.
That's actually good, because I was looking for non-zero numbers, because it was like, 4, I'm like, well, then nobody's enforcing it. That's a healthy number. If it was 510, then I'd worry in the other direction. So, all right, good. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wollaston?
Yeah, I'll agree with Mr. Madison in just saying that I appreciate the systems that you guys have in place. Something that is very important to me is being able to have those systems and then just having them play out correctly. It's a big desire of mine that we never go in the direction of like yonder pouches or anything crazy like that, because it just seems like a kind of like a scheme to me. Someone's selling something, someone else is buying through it. I lived through it in another district, and I can't say it's that much more effective than the clear system that you have in place, because it takes a lot of accountability on the students' behalf, but also on the educators and the staff's behalf to be able to enforce this. And buying a pouch is not just necessarily going to fix that issue. So as Mr. Madison said, there were non-zero numbers, so it's showing buy-in not only from the students, but buy-in from the staff as well, and that's something we love to see.
Thank you. Anybody for a first time around? Anybody for, Mr. Halleck?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ms. Jorgensen, love your policy. I just wanted to ask you if you recommend students keeping their phones in their locker, or if it's or if they're allowed to have it in their backpack.
We ask that they keep it in their locker. So students at the middle school do not travel with their backpacks. So everything is placed in a locker. We do have 2 students who do walk around with their cell phones because of medical devices that they need to carry with them. So the entire staff is aware of that, so that eliminates any type of negative interaction between the students and the staff members. But other than that, keep it in their locker. Now, I know my kids have it on their person. We just can't see it because they're so creative at hiding it. I'm okay with that. Just don't take them out. And I'm not going to look for it.
And Mr. Parker, I wanted to ask you about if students use their cell phones either in the hallways, if that, or in the lunchroom, if that in any way disrupts the flow of traffic, either going to class or coming to and from lunch, or even in the lunch lines as well.
Yeah, at this time, I couldn't attribute any of that to cell phones. If anything, it's just, maybe just wanting to be with my friends, or just where that person is organizationally, and just kind of really trying to access and maneuver the space. But I wouldn't attribute that necessarily to cell phones.
Okay. Thank you both very much for your responses. I appreciate it.
Ms. Taylor, then Mr. Panos.
One last question, but that's the reason why I asked for the infractions and what they get, so that everybody can understand. Because again, I'm a parent. Do you have any data on the 106 or any of the infractions, the age of the students? Are you seeing this more so with freshmen, or?
I would say more so 9th and 10th grade right now.
Yeah, that's what I was guessing. I was reached out to by a parent of a younger student and wondering what we could do, or how they could, just of course, they can enforce at home, but once the student's at school and vice versa, right? And I was thinking about it. I said I'd be willing to bet it's younger students that are having such a hard time. You think about it, if you're going from 8th grade and, you know, at Sage Park where you couldn't have it at all. And now they said we could have it. Sometimes it's hard to just be able to, like Mr. Medicine said, to kind of just like almost like a drip campaign, but it's all of a sudden you're able to have it at some point. And for some students, it's difficult to really gauge it yourself. Any thoughts from the both of you? Because I think this is going to be probably something that we take back, depending on how I do the motion. Any like professional opinions on how we can bridge the gap for students that are going from 8th grade to 9th grade with this piece? I don't know if this is a Dr. Michael Mallory thing of just getting them used to the extra responsibility and accountability that comes with going from 8th grade to 9th grade and what that means.
Yeah, and well, I mean, for the high school, I know myself and one of my administrators who has the 9th grade, Mr. Lorero, we actually talked about having an early forum. So, we've started school, we've done our, our communications and things like that via Thrillshare, so forth. But really just come in with that theme and just having that dialogue around why it's important for them not to be so attached to the phone. Again, like I know our seniors, they probably weren't too happy about it. But again, this is new for them, right? In the sense that we've honed in and just said this is really what we're expecting. I mean, they've been awesome about it, especially with the fact that we kind of came back with it this year. But again, I think there's always going to be that, that learning piece for students just coming to a new building in a lot of different instances, including the cell phone. But, I'd probably be more interested in, who and why they're accessing the phone. So really having conversations with those students that are repeat offenders around, like, why are we accessing our phone? Is it a peer thing? Is it a parent actually contacting their student? There's just a lot of different variables, obviously, that we don't necessarily put out in the universe all the time. But I know for us, it would make sense for us to dig a little deeper and see if there's some other supports and things like that.
Thank you.
Mr. Panos. Mr. Panos. And then
you first. Oh, okay. Just to clarify something that, when we talk about policy, I know the word policy is used for the building, but that's not the policy that we are talking about.
Right.
And so, generally, we could set some bases here, but we don't want to restrict you from making it, stricter if you want than what our policy might indicate. It's a certain, we give a kind of a general overview, but so yours is a practice, I would say, or something like that, school practice, or you call it a policy. But, the other thing is, about the passing time. In the past, we have had complaints, from the administrators that, that the students are, videoing, taking pictures of things, and that was part of the disruption. Sometimes they'd post them or something like this, So I'm a little surprised that, that you don't have any problems. Maybe later on in the year you will have a problem. No. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you. If you think, I don't know if you have a comment.
I would just say I would attribute things like that more to a culture shift than anything. Again, expectations around that. They know there is a penalty for doing things like that, and just consistency. So.
Mr. Madison?
Yeah, hypothetical question, just to test the waters. And I say policy in the sense that Mr. Panos mentioned it, which is the policy which propagates down from there. If we were to say that the district policy becomes a way for the day and goes all the way down to high school and you had to enforce that, what would your fears and concerns be?
That's what mine is currently, so I don't have any concerns. As a matter of fact, as I'm sitting here listening to Mrs. Taylor, thinking about how do we prepare our 8th graders for the transition to the high school, similar to, we used to have assigned seating all the time in the cafeteria, and then when our 8th graders got to the high school, it was just a madhouse. They didn't know where to sit, where to go, And so now we have open seating for everyone, which hopefully make the transition easier. So as I'm sitting here, I'm thinking, do we now afford our matriculating eighth graders some level of privilege so that when they get there, it's not as a shell shock, right? But if you were to have a way for the day as a district policy, I think we'll be just fine. It just takes time for kids and teaching of the expectation to understand that that it is something that they're going to follow up on. And we put certain measures in place because we certainly don't want teachers to waste time engaging kids to ask them to put their phone away on either end, right? And so making sure that the systems are aligned and streamlined so that if they don't want to give a phone away, the teachers know what to do exactly, and then they return to teaching, and we know where to find the children. So I think we'll be fine as long as we follow through on what it is that we're supposed to do.
And my response to that would be, my concern would be the appearance of not being cohesive in terms of the decision-making between the board and the school. So in terms of our practices, like I said, we don't have any data to suggest that we're not moving in the right direction. And then it may be perceived as something that was considered top-down, so to speak. But again, that would be me worrying as an outlier to what is happening. But the biggest thing is I just want to make sure there's cohesion. And I think more so, and this is just an opinion based on the evidence I have now, it's more about being clear with the expectations and then just knowing that that support is going to be, happening on all fronts. So.
Yeah. I only ask it that way just because I hate authority, so I wouldn't want someone telling me how to do my job. I don't want to tell you how to do yours. I just want to understand the implications there. I also do think it's different in high school, though, because you're in formal operational mode. The 13 to 14-year-old is known, you guys know this because you're all educators and do this stuff, right? But it triggers your abstract reasoning brain. I remember the day my older kid turned into an abstract reasoner because he challenged me 3 times at breakfast. I'm like, wow, go kid. It was great. But you can see the day that adult brain turns on, and that happens in 8th grade. So I think there's latitude you have to give high schoolers that you don't give the middle schoolers. Middle schoolers, you let them law. It gets tricky in 8th grade because that's when they cross the 13, 14-year-old boundary in the formal operational PHA stage. But it's trying to balance it out.
And some of that, that cohesion is them, us having those conversations about the students as they matriculate, and then also, our Fresh Start programs. That's another opportunity. Those same messages and practices are implemented during the summer. So the more students that we get during that, time frame, like I think Victor talked about, we had over 100 some odd students, and you're talking at least a third of the class, if not a little more. 2/3. So it's an opportunity there. But then again, I think the expectations early on, and we'll have some instances we'll have to do some more reteaching, but. Right now, I'd say as a building, we're comfortable with the direction that it's going.
Thank you.
Any other? Mr. Wollaston.
Yeah, I was just going to say very quickly, it's only a comment. I know there was a lot of conversation about like the idea of phone usage and passing time, and I know it is something that happens, but I think this generation is really a generation that does prefer like in-person interaction. You're not going to have a bunch of people in the corner on the phone just blocking the way. It's probably because there's a group of friends who finally get to meet up in between passing time, and now they're slugging around in the hallway or something, as opposed to just walking around and groups of people just texting on the phone in the hallway. We kind of downplay the fact that people do interact in real life in this generation still.
Yeah, so I failed to mention earlier, about the folks that just, to Mr. Wilson's point, that mention, well, back in my day, X, Y, and Z. Well, back in my day when I was at Windsor High, my beeper was bag and tag, and I couldn't even call anybody back. I'd have to go outside and use the payphone outside the Red Tail lobby. Yes, I had a beeper. And so I just wanted us to...
You were in trouble, weren't you?
Weren't you? It was probably you on the board that made the policy that had the bag and tag.
There's the beeper in the policy that is yours.
That's right. Really? I'm feeling a little old. So, yep, purple beeper. So, and so I just want us to guide us along the trajectory of this is where we are. And oftentimes things change. And we went through this, about a year ago with the dress code and everything, which was dated since I was in the 90s at Windsor High School, and we couldn't have a lot of things. We couldn't wear a lot of things. And then there's just, the data keeps changing, and we won't know what it's going to be like in the future. But I really don't think, anyone, went to prison or anything because they had a I Get Around T-shirt on, and we couldn't have that. So I just want to just guide, the listening public along the trajectory of cell phones are modes of communication. A lot of our children are latchkey kids, or there is no house phone. So I just wanted to lift that piece of it too. That bagging a phone, every single time is probably what we continue to do to make sure that the learning is happening. But there's nothing new under the sun. There were beepers back in the day. Officer Kears, he used to be Officer Kears, would make sure that we would, if you're going to have them, that's fine, but they better not go off in class and things like that. So again, this is nothing new. It's just a different mode of communication.
Anyone else? I just want to say myself, I like some of the ideas I've heard here. That's the nice thing about going last. Oh yeah, these are a lot of good ideas on both sides here. But looking at Dr. Mallory here as well, is this an opportunity, and for Dr. Parker, for advisory to be digging in on this? And again, what can we do to make sure parents are aware of even the state policy? There's a new state policy now, which is guidance, and it doesn't say one thing, but it does talk about some of the issues about why there is, this is where it is as far as public understanding of issues regarding cell phones. And for Dr. Haiti, I know when you had sent out further explanation about the history and English course, at the bottom of that, it looked like it was the cell phone policy. And did parents have, was there a signature block on that where parents have to sign off for that course? Or do parents in general, if not, do parents have to sign something regarding knowing what the cell phone policy is for their students at Windsor High?
So typically it's embedded in the syllabi, and then from there.
So that was the document I sent, that was the syllabus for that class?
Yes.
And at the end of the syllabus, it's a policy that
Is that
parents...
something that's common not only for dual credit, but other syllabi?
I have seen it on other teacher. I don't know if it's a common practice with every single course at the high school, but I have seen it on other courses other than ECE courses.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Panos?
With regard to, there's a lot of discussion about, too much screen time having effect on, actually, Dr. Mallory, this SEL presentation that first came, talked about it. And in other words, I don't know if I'm not sure that it's appropriate for our policies to be addressing that issue, but, that could possibly, at least and as an ancillary discussion, students should learn that they shouldn't be wasting all their time on the screen, even out of school. So but I'm not sure that that's what we're talking about here. What we're talking about is, the classroom time. That's our main concern, is that they not be. But that is I think the discussion could creep into that area, and so it might be of interest to have some sort of SEL input, to teach kids, look, don't waste too much time.
Self-management.
That's it. Yeah.
Thank you. I think the way we had structured this was we wanted to hear from the two principals, and then we were asking Dr. Hill or a designee to talk about the state guidelines. So I think that's where we are.
So, because you guys use different terms. Thank you, Mr. Panos, first and foremost. No building has any policy. They have practices that they use. They like to use that term a lot. It's like the policy comes from you guys, and then ARs are how we actually implement. That's why there's differences. Otherwise, we'd be violating our own policies. So I need to just make sure that lesson's clear for all my administrators for future learning. Practices are in your buildings, policy comes from the board. The state has not done any policies. No one's done any policies. So everyone's doing what we know they're going to do. They're all just talking. So they've given position statements because the Surgeon General brought it up last year, and so it's become the talking point for governors across the country. The issues that they're bringing up are valid issues for sure, but it's not the stuff that we're actually talking about here. So it's not preventing people from getting to class on time. Folks aren't holed up in corners on their phones. It's, I think, Mr. Panos, you were just touching on it at the end here, the screen time and the negativity of the screen time, not just looking at the screen, but what's happening with the social media connections and the increase in depression and them not feeling good. So those are definitely things that Dr. Mallory and his team can continue to work with the school administrators on. But I was just really listening to everyone's comments about the phones because it's not the physical stuff. And, you know, Vice President Taylor said it perfectly right. Beeper. I feel old now because when I started teaching, my babies had beepers. Okay, and we like, oh, the world's going to end because you got a beeper. No, it's not going to end. So it's not, the phone is not the issue in and of itself. It's what's happening with students with the phone. That's the statement or the position paper that the state has put out, right? The mental health issues that come in, the social emotional issues that come into play with students. And I will say, a little crack on some of my adults here. I won't turn my head so no one thinks I'm looking at them. But we do have some in this generation who are working for us. They have the same issues as the teenagers in high school. They can't put their phone away. The phone has become an appendix for many adults. And they have to see it. There has to be something going on. It's just the generation that we're in at this point. Like I said, I guess I'm just old now. I can leave my phone somewhere and be like, oh, I forgot my phone. It's there. I was calling you. I was texting you. I remember payphones. You know, but the thing we did not have with the pagers or the payphones was all the stuff going on social media and the screen time, you know, Mr. Panos, as you were alluding to. We didn't have that issue, and that is a big issue. If students are going to become depressed and have other kinds of social emotional issues going on, then that's something that we're going to have to address. But I'm glad to hear it's not the phone. Kids can walk around the school and get to class on time. Because how many of y'all were late? I went to school, I'm dating myself, right? I graduated in '86 from high school. Were you ever, were you ever late? We didn't have cell phones. There was no such thing. We were late to class. Yeah. The class was next door, you know. Because if she walking this way, I'm walking that way. Yeah. All 4 hallways to get to the room right here. And I was late. Take the tension. So I just don't want us to attribute normal things, as you said, Mr. Madison, normal adolescent behaviors. Mm-hmm. And then we try to, stigmatize them with, goings on. Teenagers act like teenagers of any time. I say that so many times every year at these board meetings. They're just teenagers. You did it. I know you feel like you were perfect now when you get to this age, but you're not. You're not being truthful. You did stupid stuff. And and last thing I'll say is I dropped my child off to college in August, and everyone welcoming her, the students working, had a cell phone. All the kids moving in, they could barely carry the boxes because they like to do this because they can't let go of their phone. So you saw lots of phones dropping. But I'm pretty sure if they all got accepted to college, they're going to graduate from college. They're going to go to class with cell phones. I know she goes to class with a cell phone because I get a text. I'm like, oh, this class was pretty fun today. Today we talked about this. Or the professor's talking about this thing we discussed at Windsor High with Mr. Hooley. So don't freak out, people. We're going to make it. A purple beeper, too. Hulo cell, right?
Make the motion. Yes.
Then we'll be able to discuss freely
Yeah.
before we take any kind of
Sure, I don't think there's going to be too much discussion about that.
Okay.
President,
Ms. Taylor?
President Fury, I'd like to make a motion I move that we create a special ad hoc committee to address cell phone usage in the district.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos. Discussion? Ms. Taylor, do you want to start off the discussion as the maker of the motion?
I believe this motion is a good one. A further discussion makes sense for issues that come up such as this. I think we had a robust discussion here, but we could always dive a little deeper, get a little more data, and make decisions that we make be based on data and not just our personal opinions or unconscious biases. So that is the reason why I'm putting this motion forward.
Thank you. Mr. Panos.
Yes, shockingly, I agree with Mr. Taylor.
Can we put this on the record and make sure Ms. Daly gets that correct?
Yeah, I think it would be a good opportunity for all of us to delve into this thing and make use of resources here and kind of, because we have to make a more general policy. We want it to have some teeth, but we don't want to, get it right down to detail, but we want to allow, to make sure that the administration can do more if they want, so, just how to word the policy is going to be a chore, so thank you very much. I appreciate this opportunity for all of us to be able to participate. This would be, I think it'd be all virtual, and so
Yes.
that would make it very good. Thank you.
Mr. Madison, and then Mr. Lockhart.
Just a point of information, how big of a committee are you talking about? The whole?
I'm suggesting a committee of the whole, but it's based on the president's final decision.
Yeah, just my 2 cents, I don't feel the need for a committee that big. My only thing is I wouldn't mind codifying what we're saying, because I never like key person dependencies. So I do a lot of governance at work, and if you see a high-performing team, you leave them alone, but then you take their best ideas and you turn them into real policies so you can enforce them all the other bozos. So generally speaking, if I'm comfortable with what's going on, if we could just codify that into some kind of formal policy, so that if heaven forbid, we ever have less competent people, which is easy to do because you're setting the bar very high, and I appreciate it. I'd want to make sure that we have it as a policy, not just counting on the fact that we have people in charge who are doing something that I think is the right bar in both circumstances. So I don't feel the need to be on a committee of the whole. If you want to shrink the committee, I'd be willing to defer to whoever wants to go on the committee.
Any other discussion? Mr. Lockhart and Mr. Wollaston.
Yeah, I'm in support as is. Me personally, I think the committee of the whole will allow us to have that great conversation in committee rather than just 3 people or 4 people. Let everybody have an opportunity to flesh it out in committee and really take a deep dive on exactly what's going on, reaffirm the good things that are happening, maybe have a conversation, maybe stumble on something, hey, maybe we can do this better. So then when we get to a board meeting like this, we're not here spending an hour on the topic. We can just speak to it for about 5-10 minutes and then move on. So I'm hoping that we can build on what we've heard tonight. And to your point, we don't want to tell them how to do their job, but we want to put a policy and AR in place that supports and codify what they're doing and allow them the autonomy to do what they need to do as the norms shift.
Mr. Wollaston?
Yes, I just wanted to mention we did spend a little time in caucus just speaking about the direction that I would like to go forth as policy committee chair. And I thought it was a good idea to bring in each board member because it is an issue that each one of us can spend a lengthy amount of time talking about if we so decide to. But I think there is benefit in having that conversation in the committee meeting, bringing in Mr. Halleck, Mr. Panos, and those who are not on the committee and let them all hash it out there. And as Mr. Mr. Lockhart, not Lockhead, as he mentioned, and just come back to the board as a whole, and we just, this is the consensus that we came to, and let us go forward.
Anybody for the first time around? Mr.
I shockingly somewhat agree with James. I hate to say that because, but I also understand what we're doing, and I think coming out of some of the conversations we've had recently, I'm very supportive of having a committee where we can have all of these dialogues. It just to me seems like what's going on is working, so maybe it's just codifying it, to James's point, is good. So I'll vote yes, but I actually agree with it, which is terrifying.
Mr. Panos.
Yeah, well, I think this is interesting. The two new members here don't quite really understand why we have policies and why we permit the ARs. So, you know, with deference to Dr. Hill here, I mean, I trust us. This is what we need to do. This is just to find out what a policy is versus an A.
Anyone else? Mr. Halleck.
Thank you. I do think a committee of the whole makes sense. You know, that way we can all put our ideas together. And as Mr. Wilson said, we can move it forward from there.
Mr. Wollaston.
Just for a point of clarification, this is just for the specific issue, right?
Correct.
All right, so that was my thought as well.
This isn't usurping the regular policy committee.
Yeah, just because cell phone policy, I think, can be such a opinionated issue, and we're just trying to bring a few more of us into the fold and then just hash it out.
Yeah, I would just,
Mr. Panos.
I would just add that why we're doing this is precisely because in the past we've had problems with the current board policy. Now, of course, we have excellent administrators taking care of it, so we don't. But that doesn't mean that in the future the new data would change, or the meaning maybe there's a new principle, someplace, where things change. We've had that before. We've had policies that work, then all of a sudden you get a change of the command, and things go downhill. And if you have we build this institutional knowledge. And that's why you find them in the policy, and with a certain, with deference to the administration to be able to do what it is. But sometimes the policy has to be a bit firmer, and so, okay, sorry.
In the last few years, we've done finance committee, and Mr. Lockhart's been the chair of that most of that time, of the whole, because initially it used to be a three-person committee, and often a lot of other members might be able to speak, but they could only speak as members of the public, and often the rest of the board disagreed, many of them disagreed with the direction of that committee. So this gives everybody, Mr. Panos as minority leader, did not assign himself any committee, so this allows him to speak more than at the beginning of a policy. Are you withdrawing your motion here? So I think it's just an important issue, and we hear about trauma, we hear about social, emotional. This potentially has a lot of different directions, and we may not go in some of them, but this allows that kind of robust conversation as we have with finance. So I clearly will support this. Anyone else want to speak to this before we vote? Seeing and hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Jill?
Sorry, Jill. Sorry, Ms. Cantor. Didn't hear you.
Jill? You're having a hard time hearing.
Yeah.
Jill, how do you vote? Aye. Okay.
Hand signals.
All opposed? Nay?
Can't hear you.
Abstention? Yeah.
Oh.
Yes, motion carries 900.
Very good.
Now, as president, I am appointing all of us, the committee of the whole, with Mr. Wollaston as chair. Next item, superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am going to ask Ms. Batchelder to first give 2 updates as requested by the board before I read just my pieces.
Okay, the first one is an update on Oliver Ellsworth School. regarding the humidity, the humidity project that we have been doing over the past few months. So at current time, the contractor and subcontractors are continuing to work on the building management system, exterior ductwork installation, finalizing the work on the cafeteria air handling units, and completing the work on some loose ends that we're still tightening up. Also, the ductwork tie-down system, which we had talked about before school started, that has actually been approved by the PBC and is currently being manufactured. It actually has to be made. So we're just waiting on that. The estimated delivery date for all materials is the 4th week of September, and the installation process will start soon after that. And the installation will be done after school hours and on weekends as necessary. Total completion date is still to be determined, but we're on the same track that we have been, that we thought we would be when we first started this project, about 6 months ago.
Any questions on this? Mr.
There,
Peel?
there are no, I assume there's no, we have the adequate dehumidification right now, is that correct?
Correct. We are still running all of our individual units in each classroom, as well as the industrial ones that the district bought as a precaution, just because the system's on and off because they're still working, after hours.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Statements? Mr. Lockhart? No? Okay. Thank you very much.
Okay. And then the next update is regarding DACO. This was a request by the Board of Ed for an update. Our hiring manager, our terminal manager that we've had over the past year did resign recently, but we have a new individual coming in. His name is Justin Evans, and his first day was yesterday. I reached out to the schools to get, specifics because, Jen Hosine and I can give you from a very high level of what we're seeing, but I wanted to also get it from the building levels directly. Overall, the buildings are pleased. It was very nice to hear. Sage gave me a good detailed, so I'm going to read Sage Park's celebrations, area of opportunity, and reminders. You can tell we have educators among us. So the celebrations of DACO, the majority of the buses are at school on time. Sometimes, someone at DACO is always answering the phone regularly, especially during peak hours. The emails about late buses have been very timely. DACO staff are accurate when estimating bus time arrival if it is late. And Transversa, which is the system that we transferred over to, has been working without glitches this school year. Area of opportunity, and this has been an issue. Bus video, we are still waiting to really fine tune that and get it quicker from DATCO. And a couple of reminders is that if the bus seems somewhat empty, they have just been asking the drivers to make sure before they pull away, talk to an administrator. So in case there's, a couple classes that are still in Sage that haven't come out yet, don't think your bus is ready to go. Just hold tight. And that pretty much sums it up. So we're off to a really good start.
Questions? Okay. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Mr. Williston.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the bus number. I don't remember the bus number off the top of my head, but I know there's been some sort of complaint about buses that we have that service the Wilson Deerfield area, that they might be a little bit too packed. Have we looked into that?
Yep, so we have, and we are still fine-tuning that. So what happens at the start of the school, we actually do not allow students to ride our buses if they register after a certain date. And so then as of September 9th, we had a whole new influx of students. We were trying to get on buses, and we asked families to, make sure you check the portal in case that Monday morning rolls around and it's your pickup or drop off is more than that 10-minute window from this added amount. And so now that's exactly what we're looking at, is seeing the amount of kids on every bus. Is there any room to, switch buses, switch students? Is there a way to make a route quicker? So that's kind of like the last phase of a 3-phase process every year. And so that's what we're doing right now.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Batchelder. So most of my announcements, as typical per meeting, have been spoken of. So I will try to cover some stuff that wasn't. So I want to thank the Windsor Historical Society and the Windsor Chamber of Commerce for hosting the New Teacher Ice Cream Social again this year for our new teachers. That is becoming quickly a very fun event. I think it's better than the lunches. When we used to do the lunches, the food was good, but it's just nice to have the ice cream. It's more casual, relaxed, and we get to hear from the members of the Historical Society, the people who work there, the director, and we also get to hear from various businesses in the community via the Chamber of Commerce Collective. So new teachers coming here to Windsor get a very quick introduction and welcome to people who are here working and living in the community, and they have access to. So we want to say thank you to them. We did talk about the block party. You heard that earlier, but I just want to give some thank yous to different organizations and companies. So the block party that was celebrated again, which was an incredible hit on August 22nd. We want to thank Amazon for $20,000 and volunteers for the event. Kiwanis Club for $2,500 and volunteers for the event. Niagara Water gave us a full pallet of water bottles. Julie's Brainy Books, 174 brand new hardcover books. The Harvard Foundation, $7,500. MDC Water, mobile water stations. And Patty Patton from our food services, coordinating her team. They, again, as usual, whenever we need them, they step up. And I want people to really appreciate what they do. I know we hear a lot about school food and cafeteria stuff. I think that's one of those areas that, again, I say it's like people have been complaining for generations, and I think that's more psychological than anything else, but they try their best, and Patty really works hard in her team, and I appreciate them constantly being there when we need them. And Carlos Rosario, our physical plant manager, and his team as well. I was there talking to Mr. Kearse when everything was shut down and it was time to pack up. We even helped pack up, one of the tents, not a lot. Just help somebody break it down, then they packed it up, but his team was right on it. So the fields and everything, the trash was picked up quickly and things were cleared. And I know no one even knew that we had the block party the next day. It was ready to move on. So I want to thank them for their hard work. And lastly, I'd like to say that the coffee talks will start up for this school year. The first official coffee talk is scheduled for Tuesday, September 24th at the Bean at 226 Broad Street. And it'll be this is a morning one. So I know folks have come up to me all summer. It's like, you do it in the morning. We actually rotate. It always rotates. So one will be in the morning, and then the next month it'll be in the evening. So this one is in the morning at the Bean. And please RSVP by the district website. And yes, one big topic that we will be discussing, I'm going to have Kelvin Kearse come in and present, is about the school safety. The issue and the incident that was mentioned by our student rep, I'm thankful for his words and the sentiment pretty much of the students and the staff, but I know there are some things that we can improve. I talked to some parents who were outside of school at the end of that incident, and I took ownership then, and I'll take it now. I sent a communication. They wanted a faster communication from me to them. So my first concern, again, is going to be the safety of the students and the staff in the buildings. And I want to say it to the community listening. I am never going to report when I don't have real information or valid information to report to you. However, that being said, we do have a process that my team, and our communications coordinator, Ms. Gill, we're going to implement. If there is another incident like this, we hope there are none. And so you will get a quick communication that basically the school is in lockdown. But we're going to ask you what my letter said that I shared. When these procedures happen, it's not new. You do not call the school. You do not come to the school. Because what folks don't understand, as much as they feel they're concerned about their child, you're actually putting everyone in danger. If something happens, the emergency services folks cannot get to the building to do what they need to do. And so I just want to make sure that's clear. And again, we will have Mr. Kears, a retired police captain with many, many decades of training and experience. He will be explaining this to folks. We can explain the school's basic procedures again at the coffee talk, but he'll be explaining like why we do what we do and why we have to do things the way we do them. Thank you.
Questions for Dr. Hill? Mr. Panos.
I've heard, Ms. Cantor mentioned that the cafeteria is now limiting the amount of money, question, that you can put in the kitty, for the student to go, to be able to get the lunches. I think like to $50 is the top, and there's a service.
I'm sorry, Ms. Pence, could you say it a little louder, please?
I'm sorry. Ms. Cantor mentioned that the cafeteria now limits the amount of money that they can put in for their child, the users account, can charge, and that there's a service fee, and that instead of being able to put in $200, you were limited to $50, and that there's a service fee each time, and that it's an inconvenience for some people. So could you speak to that? Why is there such a limit?
So that is the first time I'm hearing that there's a limit, so I'd like to clarify that with Patty Patton, who's our food service manager, director, because I don't think that's the case, but there might be something that needs to be switched on or off, because we did switch to a brand-new platform starting this school year, so it might still be working out the kinks. But with this new platform, yes, there is a service fee for using a credit card, but that's with all systems. Every time you use a credit card.
But the complaint was the limit.
Yes, but
$50,
I will definitely look into that, because I don't.
Is that,
Yeah, you just put other amount.
is a way of doing it?
I just did just now, other amount, and I just try to see. Yeah.
So it just like
Other
plugs
amount can be
50 in as a
$300?
placeholder, and you
Did
can
200.
choose.
You have 200.
I did 200. I'm like, I'm not putting 200 on his account.
We thought you were treating.
I would not recommend that. I lost over $200
Yes.
with my graduate. Yeah, don't
12,
do
so
it.
we're not going to do that, but I just real quick just wanted to check. But yeah, you can do that. You just tap other amount, and I was able to do 200.
I wonder if
Maybe
that's
do
something
2,000.
I wonder if that's something that could be, in some format, broadcast more to parents, especially now that you've gone to a new system.
Yeah.
Double check that, see if there is if there's not a limit, then
Yeah. Because this new system, it feeds right from PowerSchool. It's so much easier for families to be able to switch money from student to student. The other system wasn't able to. So if you have a Sage Park student and a OE student, a parent can go in and divvy up the accounts and move it daily if they want. They're not limited. So the same goes for all of our free and reduced applications. They could do this right through the portal now. So they're not having to print everything, handwrite everything. Everything is done online through this portal. But I'll look into if there's a way to announce that that's different way to plug in the money.
thank you.
With respect to the high school, the incident, which was not a real one. It was I think that if you don't really know that let's say there's a real issue here, but that there's some suspicion and everyone gets upset, I think that there should be, perhaps they could just understand that if there's no new news, you can assume that nothing bad has happened so far according to your knowledge, right? I can't understand why people would want, minute to minute.
So this is like a third agreement thing tonight. Something's wrong. Something's wrong. That's what it is. Because this is not my board, right? This is different. Mr. Panels, that was my thinking. That is why I'm taking all the blame to the community. But I had some, a number of parents who were not happy with that approach. So again, my team and I, as we always do, we looked. Since you brought it back up, I want to give a shout out to the staff and the administration, as our student rep did when it came to handling it. I didn't hear from any parents that they felt that we didn't follow procedures and take care of their students in the building. And I didn't hear from, anyone in the building that they felt unsafe. So I'm glad we followed procedures to the hilt, and I'm just really proud of my team for that. That was my approach, right? Like with I do have years of incident training, but I'm going to let Mr. Kears do the talking. If I don't have something to tell you, the information is not accurate, I don't want to put that out there because I felt at that time, the information kept changing a lot. So yes, it ended up not being a real incident. However, there were so many pieces that kept moving the minute. The chief of police and the community can hear this, and we walked into the building together. And there were already parents waiting outside the building and driving up as we came in together. And then when we got in, we got briefed, and it just kept changing. So it wasn't a typical incident. Even, the false alarms, like we had one in the spring. You come in, they tend to find the student, and you do some questioning. We could tell parents right away. Things just kept moving. Well, there might have been another student. There might have been, things happen. And so I did not feel comfortable giving parents inaccurate or partial information. I believe in my experience, it just creates more hysteria. But to meet parents, halfway, so to speak, we will have a quick message that will go out, should there be any other future incidents, saying that the school is in whatever particular lockdown, and further information will be coming forward when available. So I wanted to say this now. I'll say it again at the coffee talk. That's what parents will get. I know not everyone's going to be happy, but I can't and I will not give out inaccurate information to the community.
So if no one had cell phones, a lot of this wouldn't have happened. Good information.
Ms. Taylor.
Yes, I knew someone was going to mention that. So in real time, as things unfold, I have a child at the high school too. So what are people going to do? They're going to call me, right? And so my first thing that I shared with parents is, please don't go there. Please don't go there. Like, have you heard from Chloe? No, I haven't. And that's a good thing, because if it's in a lockdown, she shouldn't have. Her phone is in her bag, she wouldn't have her phone. But I understand, and I'm giving so much grace because it was the day after a tragedy. So it was different. It felt different. And so, I made sure that parents understood that once there's news to share, it will be shared, and to understand that the baby's in there too. So I think we've all been in the community, kind of just de-escalating and defusing, but I also give grace because tensions were running kind of high. But I think things have kind of just settled in, and as we're seeing, these things are continuing to happen. We see this morning, Bloomfield High School. And so back to social media and all these things, what we can do is empower our students. If you hear something, what the greatest part about this is say something. Because it makes it so that the law enforcement and the resource officer and administrators can do all the things that they need to do when kids speak up. So I also want to shout out the folks that did what they needed to do on the ground there. But as a parent, just getting folks to understand that going directly to the school is the worst thing you could do. I would rather you stay by the phone, pray if that's what you do, and wait to get more news, because whatever you're getting from inside of the building, how could your child know they're in lockdown? How would they know accurate information? So, yes, it was one of those things that we don't plan for, but the great news is that the information that did come out was accurate. So, thank you very much, Dr.
Mr. Madison.
Just one more thought. There is a principle in crisis management of updates even when there's no new information, to say there is no new information. So just something to consider is I don't know the exact timing because I'm not worried. I think you handled it well. But just if there is a long delay, even the notion of no further information at this time, we're monitoring the situation, no further information at this time, we're monitoring the situation, is a principle because human psychology, just people always assume the worst, especially when they have something at stake, which is their kids in this case. So just something to think about. Even if there's no new information for a 2-hour block, every 30 minutes, 45 minutes, given the fact that there's a million other things to manage, so I respect that too. But just an update that says there is no new information is a principle of crisis management that I'm familiar with, based on what little I know about crises compared to those who do it professionally. Just a thought.
Mr. Lockhart.
Thank you. So, Doctor, I just want to say thank you because we have safety plans in place. They're presented to this board in an executive session. We don't know the intricate details, but as a person that has a sophomore at the high school and as a first responder in this town, I was very confident. And we have a saying, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. And you were ready. And emergency services came right through, did what they had to do. There was no need for me to hound your phone as a parent or as a Board of Ed member. You communicated when you need to communicate. This board, we hire you to run a scene, run the situation, and advise us as need be. I want you to continue to be focused in that area, to continue to run this district that you do so well doing. But to all the police officers, thank you very much for the staffs and all that was ready for the lockdown. Thank you very much. You kept every single one of our children safe and sound. And the day before, unfortunately, some folks didn't come home. And this is just the raw reality that we live in. So as a board member for me, I worry about all of my kids and when I send my babies out. And I know we all worry about our babies as well, but all these children are our babies. And we have an ethical responsibility to make sure that our babies and every single soul that comes up on our campus is protected. And God forbid that there is an incident, that we are all prepared to rally around and do our job, stay in our lane, and make sure that we look out and protect each other and allow the law enforcement officers to mitigate the situation. By you coming to the scene, you become nothing but fuel for the scene, you become targets for the scene, and you create more chaos for the scene, and you're really impeding the delivery of the emergency services that's being provided for our souls on the scene. So, parents, I'm speaking to you as a parent. I appreciate that you want to come up there and get your child and do something. I understand that wholeheartedly, but we have to be rational and practical about the situation and allow the professionals to secure the scene so that we can give you back your child, give you back your husband, give you back your wife, give you back your brother, give you back your sister, give you back your grandfather. That's what our role is. And Dr. Hill, you did that flawlessly for this instance. So I just want to say thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Halleck.
Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Hill, for all you did during the lockdown situation. It seems like everything went really fast with the lockdown, which is a great thing, I thank the police here in Windsor for what they did, but I also want to thank the student that came forward and I reported this right away, which set everything in motion, and the lockdown happened rather quickly. I do agree with what Mr. Lockhart I'm saying about parents running to the scene. I know that that's everyone's first reaction is to do that. It would be something I would want to do as a parent as well. So I totally get it. But you do make yourself a target, and you could also be in the way of of law enforcement personnel who need to get in the building as fast as they can to stop that situation. Obviously, it's a very scary time we live in. You know, I think we need, any time like this is probably a good time, you know, just to re-examine our security protocols to make sure everything is up to date and is in working order. So I, you know, obviously that is very important. And I think at some point, you know, I do have a lot more questions on what happened. But I do feel that for security reasons, that's something that we would possibly need to take up in an executive session at some point in the near future. And that's all the comments I had. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Wollaston.
Yeah, I just wanted to pull on one thing that Mr. Madison, that Mr. Halleck mentioned about the students. I'm not sure if any student will hear me or hear this, but it's not snitching, it's saving lives when it comes to this point. And it's that extreme. It is not snitching, it's saving lives. So thank you to the students that came forward.
Thank you. Anyone else? I want to kind of join in the chorus here, thanking Dr. Hill and the staff. When I heard about this, to me, the most important thing was the safety of the students and the staff in the building. I know parents may think that they're equally important, but they're not potentially in danger at that point. So the first thing is to make sure our students are safe. And I agree. Thank you to the student who heard something to say something. And Dr. Hill, thank you for saying you're responsible. The buck stops with you. And if there are some improvements that can be made, you're willing to do them. That's exactly what the kind of thing I think most on the board, if not all on the board, would want to hear. So thank you very much. Next item is back to you with Ms. Batchelder. Staffing update.
Okay. So we have the staffing update for the opening of 24-25 school year. As we have always done for many years now, administrators actively recruited all new teachers during the winter and spring of 2023-24. We attended numerous recruitment fairs. I always want to call out Bonnie Feynman. She is like a wannabe HR person. I know she really truly loves it. She just doesn't admit it, but she can recruit like there's no other. It's quite impressive. And so for advertisements, we are continuing to post in all of the websites and online portals that we always have been. New this year through the state, they actually have a special ed pupil service spot directly through the state that they will post all jobs. So we've been hooked up there also because it is such a shortage area. So all of our postings have go to all those types of outlets. During the hiring process, candidates participate in multiple rounds of interviews at the school level with principals, assistant principals, and teachers. In the end, once the building principal picks one or two finalists, they send them to me, and I interview them as the last step before hiring. Another piece that I wanted to point out is regarding reference checks. We are very diligent on making sure at least one reference check is from an actual direct supervisor of the individual that we're hiring. You know, we've definitely had to clean that up through the years, and it is hard sometimes to get people to call you back, but we won't even push them, they won't even push them up to me if they have not talked to someone that actually supervised the teacher in the prior employment. For new teacher orientation, we had a 3-day orientation like we've always done. It was held August 14th through the 16th. The orientation focused on all of our new initiatives for instructional services, informational sessions from pupil services in the Office of Family and Community Partnership. WEA held their breakfast and brought in representation to discuss the union, and also union reps Marge Reno and her induction support teachers did a presentation on team and also regarding an ethics PD, which is always very interesting and get a lot out of that presentation every school year. Our stats as of August 31st, there were 43 new employees to the district. This number includes all certified and non-certified staff. Teacher openings were due mainly to teachers resigning to take other positions or just retirements. For all our newly hired certified employees, 23 of them total, the breakdown between male and female was 8.69% males and 91.31% female. Of the newly hired certified staff, 17.39 of them were educators of color, which make our district-wide percentage of certified staff of color increase to 26.73.
Any questions? Ms. Taylor?
Ms. Batchelder, for just FYI, do you know the state average of certified staff in public schools in the state of Connecticut?
For educators of color?
I hate to.
Do you know it?
I used to know it. Huh? Is it 8-ish? Yeah, it used to be 10. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. Next, is there a motion?
It's 11.7 now.
Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Went up to 11.7. Oh, that's good. Go us. All right. Thank you, Mr. President. I move the board approves the return of $1,386 to the town with the details of the projected budget / category surpluses and deficits as attached. Final amount subject to completion of the audit.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstention, motion carries 900. Hopefully there was nothing else you wanted to add to that.
No, thank you.
Okay, committee reports. I assume there are no committee reports. Other matters, announcements, regular board meetings. Next Board of Ed meeting is Wednesday, October 16th, 2024 at 7 p.m. at LPW Boardroom. And I will go back and forth as to announcements, starting with Mr. King.
I don't have any, thank you.
Mr. Madison. Mr. Wollaston.
Yeah, I guess I'll just say this really quickly. So, it's no secret. This past few months I've spent running for Senate District 7. I just want to clear the air as far as where I'm at right now. The majority of my platform really was education-based because from sitting in the seat, I was seeing a lot of things that I felt like could be improved upon at a state level. So it drove me to want to advocate at a higher level and possibly have that conversation at a higher level. I just want to let the board, all my members here and the staff here in this room know that my heart is with the work that I'm doing at this table. And my passion is here at with this work as well. And this work was a big part of the reason that led me into that direction. But I am here with you guys and I'm ready to do the work.
Thank you very much. Mr. Halleck.
Thank you. Paquona School is having a open house on September 30th, so I just wanted to acknowledge that. And then Thursday's my son's birthday, so I'm sure he's home sleeping, so happy birthday, Mason. At least he better be.
Birthday. Mr. Lockhart.
Again, Dr. Hill, I just want to say thank you to you. Mr. Carlos Rosario did a yeoman's job over the summer managing that OE project. We were in meetings every Tuesday at 1:30. He was in that building 2 or 3 times a week, making sure that building was up to speed. He made sure the staff was there to get that building open for the teachers and everything. So, you know, just from a board perspective, we got to give Mr. Rosario his flowers for the extra work and time and effort that he put into that building from Monday through Saturdays, every week through the whole summer to make sure that that building got to where it is right now. It's a more comfortable space. He's still, Mr. Panos, to your point, there's still some commissioning that needs to be done. But for the most part, that building's in a much better place than it was a year ago at this point. So just want to thank Mr. Rosario.
Thank you. Ms. Cantor. Any announcements, Ms. Cantor? Thank you. Ms. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. President. So the rescheduled open house that would have happened the day of the incident for Windsor High School is now September 26th, 6 to 8 p.m. And as our student rep mentioned, lots of sports, lots of activities happening at the high school. Support our young people. If you drive past and you see a ball game, stop by and support them. They're really some amazing scholar athletes. So if you can join in and stop and watch them go, that'd be great. Thank you.
Is volleyball going on?
Volleyball is going on.
Mr. Panos.
Thank you. I have nothing to report. Thank you.
I just want to thank Dr. Hill and all the staff at Windsor for a great start to the year. Hats off to everyone in the buildings, and I know Ms. McCann may not be here, but that idea of raising the bar still resonates with many of us here, so thank you very much. Ms. Daly, one more round of audience to visitor. Is anybody, maybe I'll say, is there anybody online with a hand raised?
There are attendees online. Good evening, this is Robin Daly from the Superintendent's Office. If there's anyone from the public that would like to address the board, you may do so in 2 ways. You may type your name, address, and comment into the Q&A feature in the Zoom application, or you may speak by clicking raise hand or dialing *9 within the Zoom app. When you are called on to speak, you will be given 3 minutes to state your name, address, and comment. Please do not place the call on speakerphone. No comments can be made against the employees of the school district or children outside of your own. No comments will be made by the board at this time.
Thank you. And again, as I said earlier, Ms. Taylor will raise her red card at 2.5-minute mark, and at 3 she'll hold it up and you need to wind down your remarks. And if you can't see that because you're just on a phone or you don't have a video screen, Ms. Taylor will interrupt you at the 3-minute mark to let you know. Is there anybody online with a hand raised?
At this time, there are attendees, but no hands raised.
Anybody in the room that would like to address the board? George, luckily there's not a UConn women's game at this time, so.
Yeah. But the championship in April will be worth it. George Slate, 74 Ethan Drive. Dr. Hill, sorry that all of my focus on opt-out began with you, but you chose to have your evaluation done in the public forum. Ms. Batchelder did respond to Mr. Madison's question that paying for opt-out has no budgetary impact. And Ms. Batchelder, thank you for the information you've provided me in emails so that I have an educated guess of $2.9 million for the 159 employees that currently opt out. An aside comment first. I think the teachers union is going to thank the majority of the board that has adopted a policy that paying for opt-out from medical insurance, group medical from the BOE is your new policy. I think they will thank you, and as a citizen, supposedly, it won't cost me anything. But what I say next, the kernel of the idea came from Ron Elveld 2 months ago. We're just shy of that as we talked about this. Whether it's 2 million, 2.5, 2+ million. There's a phrase out there, where's Waldo? Where's the $2 million? Ron's point was, at the end of a fiscal year, whatever you don't spend, you give back to what's been called in the old days slush fund. I call it the rainy day fund. Officially, it's the general fund unassigned fund balance. Where is it? You have not been turning that amount anywhere near that amount back to the town. And for Mr. Lockhart, I totally agree with you that whether you pay Dr. Hill $20,000, $200,000, $2 million, that's none of his business. But what is, from the council perspective, why you're not returning that money? Because if it's budgeted for and not spent, where is it? And I just hope that's not what breaks the back for the next budget. And I've talked to Democratic leadership on this too. I'd like to see the budget passed.
Thank you. Anyone else who'd like to address the board? Seeing, hearing none, I'll look for one more motion.
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos to adjourn. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Abstentions, motion carries 900. We are adjourned at 9:32.